This is episode number 156. I'm talking about why people get paid and how you can make more money doing the exact same thing that you're doing now. That's coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. How to take your idea and make a name for yourself within your industry and beyond. Spread your message. Attract a following. Rise above the noise. Here's your host, David Hooper.
This is the Red Podcast, the podcast for influencers. If you're a blogger, speaker, podcaster, marketer, nonfiction author, or entrepreneur with a message to spread, this is the podcast for you. The focus, how to take your idea, make a name for yourself, and make money. I'm going to go deeper into my core philosophy on why people get paid and show you how you can make at least 10 times the amount of money that you're making now doing the exact same thing. I'm going to start this one off with a question. How does a man pushing 400 pounds, at least 200 pounds overweight, working as a musician, consistently sell out, humiliate, and make more money than younger, better-looking, more talented musicians? When I first met John, I was in college. I was studying commercial music. I was working in radio production and also the music industry. This is actually how I got involved with marketing. John was working as a musician, a little bit older than me, probably about my age right now. And this guy was out of shape, not good looking, poor hygiene. He was weird, man. If you saw the guy, you would wonder how he would buy his own movie ticket. I'm telling you, this guy didn't even drive his own car till he was about 30 years old. That's how crazy his brain was. He just couldn't concentrate on what he was doing. He was kind of autistic, though. And when you would play a song for him, it was the craziest thing because he could play it back to you after hearing it only once. Play it back to you on his instrument, which was either piano or guitar. So he was an amazing musician. But to say he was weird is kind of a bit of an understatement. I talked about his hygiene, long hair, never washed it, never bathed, wore the same thing every time that I saw him, and he'd eat an entire box of Twinkies at one time. Not the kind of guy that you would want to sit next to on a long airplane flight. Let's just put it that way. But he had this power, and it was a power to connect with a crowd. He would play with his own money. He would go book a venue. He would sell out the venue. He would make money every single gig that he played, not only from the tickets that he sold, but through the merch that he did. CDs, T-shirts, hats, pins, whatever he had, he was selling it, and this guy was getting paid. Because he was making so much money, a lot of record labels were interested in getting hold of him. But let me tell you how major labels work in the music industry. They know how to take a good picture. They know how to put you with a publicist, put you with somebody who can dress you. They know how to get you on the radio. But what do you do with a guy whose music isn't made for radio? He's got poor hygiene and weird social skills. Finally, somebody came up with a big idea. They said, well, we can put him with other writers who know a little bit more about pop music, know how the game is played. He's a guitar virtuoso. We can do a video. We'll just show his hands. Just show his hands moving up and down the guitar neck. Don't even have to market him. People will love the music. It'll be pop. And the image, not a problem. We'll just kind of keep him in the back where the lighting is a little bit darker. Of course, by the time they figured this out, John, he was already making so much money, he refused their deals. He didn't need their deals. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about on this episode. So if you're a book author, I'm going to show you how you don't need a book deal. If you're trying to get a podcast out, I'm going to show you how you don't need a network. If you're trying to get your message spread, I'm going to show you how you don't need people to spread it for you. You can spread it yourself. You can make the connection directly with your audience and let them spread it for you. I'm going to start out with the foundation and then get into the how-to. But I promise you, if you are a blogger, speaker, podcaster, nonfiction author, you've got a message to spread, this applies to you. The first foundation point, we are who we say we are. I talked about this on the last episode, 155. Whoever you want to be, you can be. Here's a pop culture example. You know Miley Cyrus. When I say that name, here's what you're thinking about. Young girl, short hair, tongue sticking out, booty shorts on, grinding up against the guy from Foot Locker on the MTV Music Awards. But that is not Miley Cyrus. If we think about 5 or 6 years ago, Hannah Montana. So we've got two Mileys here. The squeaky clean Hannah Montana that can do no wrong on television and is always there to save the day, Or the twerking Miley Cyrus with the short hair, the booty shorts, grinding up against the guy on MTV. Who's the real Miley Cyrus? She can't be both. The truth is she's somewhere in the middle. I'm in Nashville. I've seen her out several times. Last time I saw her, she's sitting in a coffee shop by herself. You wouldn't recognize her. Got the hoodie on, just sitting there texting. She's all alone, not talking to anybody. It's just her, and if you didn't know who she was, you wouldn't even recognize her. That's the true Miley Cyrus. Which brings me back to the point. Foundation number one, you are whoever you say you are. If you feel like you need more of an edge in public, give people that edge in public. If you feel that you need to tone things down in public, tone things down. Whoever you are in public, I do believe it needs to be consistent with who you are in private. But the bottom line is the same. When it comes to your message and your personality that you're putting out there, you can be whoever you say you are as long as that's who you act like. Foundation number two, all people in your industry, they basically do the same thing. Some make money and others are broke. Let's keep it with the music trend. Who makes more money, a classical musician or a pop star? There's no doubt if you have a trained classical musician and compared her with somebody working in the pop music industry, that the trained classical musician is going to be more technically superior. She's going to be much more competent when it comes to playing music and knowing how music works. And she's got much harder music to play. This is where a lot of people get screwed up. We think that our work is much harder than the guy who's selling more than we are. And it happens in podcasting. It happens in blogging. How many people do you know that have gotten into blogging? They've got a journalism degree, an English degree. They've written a lot in school, but they can't connect with an audience. How many people do you know that have gotten into podcasting that have a radio background and they're great on the mic, but they can't connect with an audience? Who makes more money in podcasting? Those who know how to market, connect, and fill the need of an audience, or those who are technically superior? This is where people screw up when it comes to podcasting. They buy great mics and great compressors and great equipment, but they have no talent when it comes to getting behind the mic. This is how people get screwed up when it comes to book publishing, to blogging. You go out and you get a good blog template, but you've got no content to fill the blog template with. So don't confuse your technical skills, your technical superiority, your competence, and the fact that you're working at a much higher, harder level, got a higher level of skill, with why people get paid. The reason people get paid, I'm going to say this again because it's so important, because they know how to market, they know how to connect with an audience, and finally, they know how to fill a need that the audience has. The big idea here, all people in your industry do basically the same thing. Wedding Singer, you ever seen that movie? That guy not doing anything different than Taylor Swift. A wedding singer plays songs, Taylor Swift plays songs. The difference is what people actually get paid for. Wedding singer, he gets paid for playing songs. Taylor Swift, she gets paid for being Taylor. Taylor Swift, she can't sing. Taylor Swift can't dance. I've given you about 3 music examples because that's my background, so let me give you a non-music example. This is one you may have seen if you're like me and you fly a lot. Think about your dentist. What does your dentist do? Cleans your teeth, flosses you, checks your gums, checks to make sure there's no rotting of anything in your mouth. If you've ever picked up the In-Flight magazine, you've probably seen the airline dentist. That's what I call him. And this guy has got a great photo, and he's got a nice office with a grand piano. I found out more about this guy, and his average bill, it's about $30,000. It's cosmetic dentistry. Basically, you could be smoking meth, and this guy, he'll take your meth mouth and make you look like the spokesmodel for Crest. Perfect, aligned, white teeth. That's what he can give you. And by the way, it's pain-free. You don't even have to be awake. It's sedation dentistry. You go in there, fall asleep, you wake up. A perfect, pearly white spokesmodel mouth is what you're going to wake up with. And I did some research on this guy, and his average billing, it's in the $30,000 range. Now think about your dentist. What's a teeth cleaning these days? Maybe $150. It's not much. Certainly a long way away from $30,000. So why does that guy, the airline dentist, get paid so much money? Because he offers an experience. Again, let's take it back to those three things. He knows how to market. He knows how to connect with people. He knows how to get into their heads and get into their fears and alleviate those fears, fill that need of, oh my gosh, I'm scared to death of going to the dentist. I'm willing to pay for it. Here's my credit card. Oh, the bill's $30,000. It was worth it. He knows how to get inside their heads. I want to continue on this thread, the belief that money comes from better skills. Paris Hilton, one of the top 10 DJs as far as income. Paris Hilton. I don't even know what Paris Hilton does besides look good. She was born rich. She's had a few TV shows. She's done a little modeling. She sells handbags. But right now, she's also, when it comes to billing and what she charges for a gig, one of the top 10 highest paid DJs in the world. How do you think her skills compare to some of the other top DJs on that list, the other 9? I'd be willing to bet everything that I've got that they're pretty low in comparison. Ted Nugent, Motor City Madman, when's the last time you think he took a guitar lesson? Gene Simmons from Kiss, the bass player, the Demon, when's the last time you think he took a bass lesson? But here's what Gene Simmons does know. He knows to give people what they expect. The reality of Gene Simmons is he is a very sharp guy. Used to actually be a teacher, a high school teacher. He's got a master's degree. He's well-read. But if you ask him what kind of books that he reads, he's going to tell you comic books because he knows how to connect with the audience. He knows what the audience expects, and he knows what the audience pays for. They want the fantasy. Coming from the entertainment business, I see this all the time. I've worked with a lot of different types of entertainers, not only musicians, but actors, movie stars, models, top authors, and what we think that they do in their spare time is completely opposite of what they actually do. They're normal people, just like you, just like me. They've got normal lives. They live in normal houses. But when it comes to those Facebook moments, when it comes to putting something on Instagram, when it comes to the way that they approach interviews, they're going to be bigger than life. They basically put a megaphone in front of themselves, not literally, but figuratively, and they give us something bigger, bolder, louder than who they really are. And that is my challenge to you. You've got this great personality, this great knowledge, this great insight. It's just a matter of going big with that. It's not easy. A lot of people are scared to do it. We've got crabs in a barrel. We've got people in our neighborhood. They say, oh, look at you, trying to be the diva, trying to be the big man. You can't worry about that. You've got to focus on your audience, what it is that they want, how they want to be communicated with, the needs that they need fulfilled, and the products and services that they want to buy that will meet those needs. People want the fantasy. Give them the fantasy. That is not being fake. That is not being inauthentic. That is you providing a service to people that are leading boring lives. The alarm goes off. They fight traffic. They go to work. They fight traffic. They come home. They eat dinner. They fight with their wives. They go to bed. Alarm goes off. They fight traffic. They go to work. They fight traffic. They come home. They eat dinner. They fight with their wives. They go to bed. Most people live like this. Take them out of that boring life and give them some hope. Give them some knowledge that can make their lives better. Give them the fantasy and help them to make it a reality. This is what I've been alluding to the whole episode here. If you want to get paid a lot of money, you've got to be somebody. You don't get paid for your service. You get paid for who you are. Taylor Swift, why is she a Revlon model? It's not because she's the most beautiful woman in the world. It's not because she can sing. We've already established that. She can't sing. Can't dance either, so they didn't hire her for that. It's because she's Taylor Swift. Christina Aguilera, you've seen her on television lately. It's not for her hosting abilities. She actually can sing, but they didn't bring her on there just because she can sing. A lot of people can sing. Where's that classical musician I talked about? She's on television because she's Christina Aguilera. Sarah Palin, have you ever watched her deliver news? Look, not trying to get political on you, but she comes off like an idiot. She comes off like an idiot. She's definitely not the best newscaster. She's not a great host. She can't answer questions. She hijacks questions. She just gives sound bites. She just goes over the talking points. But she gets the gig. She gets the $1 million contracts because she's Sarah Palin. Judge Judy, Number one daytime personality when it comes to payment, making millions and millions of dollars a year. She the best judge? Is she the most knowledgeable? Does she know law more than other people? Absolutely not. It's the personality. It's because she is Judge Judy. How about Dr. Phil? Not even a real doctor, not a medical doctor. They try to make it look like he is, try to make it look like he's a big psychologist, but people love him because he's in your face. He's going to tell you how it is. He gets paid for being Dr. Phil. At the very beginning of this podcast, and I talked about this on the last episode, 155, if you want to hear that, redpodcast.com/155. We are whoever we say we are who we act like. Your celebrity becoming who you are, who people think you are, that's just a story. Let's talk about exactly how you can do that. One of the things that you can do is you can make the boring exciting. How can you make what you do every day that you take for granted exciting? There's a great book, actually two by this guy. His name is Claude Hopkins, one called Scientific Advertising, the other My Life in Advertising. I'll have them linked from the show notes, redpodcast.com/156 for those. Claude Hopkins was an ad guy in the early 1900s, and a man named Joseph Schlitz, you know him from Schlitz Beer, he hired Claude Hopkins because he needed help. Schlitz Beer was in 8th place, totally getting its ass kicked by all the other German brands, Blatz Beer, Pabst Beer. 8th place, not a place that you wanted to be. So Joseph Schlitz brought in the ad guy, Claude Hopkins, and said, help me out. We need to sell more beer. Today, when you think about advertising beer, it's pretty slick. Anheuser-Busch, the number one buyer of advertising on the Super Bowl. Back then, early 1900s, though, people were not as creative with their ads. Drink Schlitz. That was the ad. So Joseph Schlitz brought in Claude Hopkins. And the first thing that Claude Hopkins did is exactly what I'm telling you to do. He looked at the day-to-day workings of the Schlitz Brewing Company, and he just observed. Now, back then, everybody made beer about the same way. All the brewing companies, Pabst, Schlitz, Blatz, they all made beer the same way. German purity laws, which basically say that there can only be 3 ingredients to beer: hops, barley, water. That's it. 3 ingredients to beer. But what Claude Hopkins discovered was that outside of the beer world, nobody had any idea about this. And he came up with a slogan. It was very simple. 1 word, 4 letters, pure. Now, what did that mean? Well, it told the story of how Schlitz was made. They actually used filtered air. They had artesian wells that were 4,000 feet deep to get the very best water, even though they were next to Lake Michigan. They used white wood pulp that was cleaned twice daily. And they used mother yeast. 100% of the yeast that they used with Schlitz was developed from this mother yeast after 1,200 experiments. Now, why did they not tell everybody about this? Because everybody did it that way. Remember German purity laws? Everybody did it this way. This beer had been made for hundreds and hundreds of years. There was very little innovation in the beer making process. Everybody was doing it. But once Claude Hopkins, through his ad, this campaign, Pure, once he told everybody about this, number one in 6 months, 1 million kegs sold per year. People were buying more than beer. They were buying the story. Now, what would happen if I followed you around? You think you live a boring life? Maybe it's the get up, fight traffic, go to work, fight traffic, come home, eat dinner, get in a fight, go to sleep. There's something interesting in there that you've got that other people don't. So I encourage you, if you're looking to be an influencer and to stand out from the crowd, let people in on this. You have a great opportunity through Instagram, social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, to let people in on the things that you think are normal in your life, but they aren't normal to other people. If you're in the blogging world, internet marketing world, you probably know the name Pat Flynn. Pat's a great example of this because he's taken something that everybody does or everybody's trying to do when they're online, making money, bringing in income, and he has made a cornerstone of his website this. If you've ever been to smartpassiveincome.com, his website, every month he posts how much money he's making. This is an example of how powerful this is when you share the process of what you do. As far as I know, Pat was the first guy to do this. He was definitely the first guy who went really big with this. Other guys have followed, John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire, which is another popular podcast. He also does it. These guys are taking something that I'm doing, you're doing, everybody else and his brother is doing, but they're making it interesting because they're sharing. You may be thinking, well, they've already done that. It's not such a big deal anymore. Let me tell you how to up the ante on this. Nobody's done this as far as I know. If you would actually post your federal tax return when you pay taxes, bam, there it is. Verification that what you're doing, the money that you're bringing in, is real. Something we all do, right? Pay taxes. You were to post that, I guarantee that you're going to get a lot of traffic from that because nobody's doing it. People are too scared to do it. All these guys that are saying they're making millions and millions of dollars in multi-level marketing, never met one of them who's going to show an income tax return. They're just not going to do that. Now, there are a lot of reasons why they wouldn't do it. There's a lot of reasons why you may not want to do it. But if you do it, guaranteed, you're going to get a ton of traffic, and you can build off of that traffic. Even if the money isn't where you want it to be right now, believe me, it'll come because of that. Let me give you another music business example of somebody who's taken the ordinary, something that everybody's doing, and made it extraordinary. About a year ago, I'm hanging out with my wife. We're out eating, stopped in downtown, and we walk across the pedestrian bridge, if you're familiar with Nashville, right across the river. And we get to the main area of downtown, and there are tons of young girls, tweens there, probably 12 to 16 years old. And they all have makeup on, and they all look like Taylor Swift. I said, what is going on? Taylor Swift is having some kind of effect on culture here because every one of these girls looks just like Taylor Swift. And it turns out the reason they look like that was that there was a Taylor Swift concert that night. And as we kept walking, we got closer to the venue in which she was playing. I see that she has tour buses encircling the venue. Dozens and dozens of tour support vehicles, trucks, all the people, all the lighting, all the rigging, the stage, everything that she brought in there, she brought in on truck or bus. And she has these things, each of them painted with a different design. So not only has she made her show, what people are actually paying to get inside to see, part of the event, she's made getting to the venue part of the event. So these girls are taking pictures in front of semi-trucks, tour buses. They all look different. They're putting them on Instagram. It's spreading the message of Taylor Swift everywhere. That's something normal that everybody's doing. Everybody parks in front of the venue, but she tweaked it up just a little bit to make it exciting. You have the opportunity to do the very same thing. Let me show you how simple it is. I'm at a 7-Eleven style Quickie Mart. It's up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I do work out of there all the time. And I look down and I see some candy. They're called Rockets. So there's something familiar about those. So I take a picture of it. Rockets, what they know as Rockets in Canada, are the same candy that we have in the United States known as Smarties. Kind of sweet tarts that come in rolls. But Smarties in Canada are M&Ms. They can't use the name Smarties up there for the sweet tarts because they're already M&Ms, so they call them Rockets. Anyway, that's something that's interesting to your audience. It's not a big deal. It just makes it look like you're out living. Are these Smarties or are these Rockets? Another example of this, I had a guy come through last week. We go out, ordered a fruit tea. I assumed everybody had fruit tea. You go to any restaurant in Nashville, fruit tea is on the menu. And he told me that Nashville is the place to get fruit tea. You can't get it everywhere. It's not available everywhere. It's like ketchup, potato chips. It's like certain flavors of Yoo-Hoo drink, not just chocolate. You know, it comes with coconut too. We've got these regional flavors. This is just one example, something that you take for granted, other people might think is interesting. Let me give you another Toronto, Ontario, Canada story. So I'm up there, I'm going through a park one day. I look up in the tree, there's a black squirrel. I've never seen a black squirrel. So I stopped and taking pictures. I was like, shh, don't scare it away. People were coming up. I was like, don't scare it away. Look, it's a black squirrel. And this guy looked at me. He goes, what are you talking about? They're everywhere around here. Got home, looked it up, and you can look this up online on Wikipedia. Black squirrel, there are two places that you can find them. One, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The other one in Florida. We don't have those squirrels where I live. Most of the country doesn't have them. If you saw one, it stands out. It's interesting to people. It makes it look like you're leading an interesting life. Think about that. It's little, simple things that you're doing. You don't have to do something like jump off of a high rise or do any kind of daredevil stunts to make your life interesting. It's the little stuff that shows that you're out working, that shows you're out spreading a message, that shows that you're having the life that people would love to trade for, because the alarm goes off, they're fighting traffic, they're going to work, they're fighting traffic, they're eating dinner, they're getting in a fight with their wife, and they're going to bed. That's the reality for most people. Your life is different. Show them, and that's going to expand who you are. Another technique for you to make more money, let's take it back to Sarah Palin again. How do we even know her? Unless you were in Alaska, you'd never heard of her had it not been from her association with John McCain. I just got back from Las Vegas recently. I was at the Westgate Hotel, formerly known as the Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis had played there. That was Elvis's hotel. They had the jumpsuit, had all sorts of Elvis stuff. This is how far you can go with this. Elvis, he's been dead for almost 40 years. He played there when he was alive, and they are still boosting their credibility through their association with him. How deep can that go? I was in Memphis for several years, and believe me, there are people making a career out of having known Elvis. It happens all the time with what I call celebrity hangers-on. Money via association can help you a lot. But let's talk about how that works for you, because I'm not saying that you need to hang out, rub shoulders with famous people. How can it work for you? It could be a podcast network. There's some big podcast networks right now. Podcast One, CBS has the Play It Network. That's big because they're introducing you. We're assuming they have some level of quality with all their podcasts. So if you're on there right away, money via association. I'm a self-publishing guy. I walked away from a major publishing contract because I love self-publishing so much. But the reality is that association with Penguin, Simon & Schuster, some of the big publishers, that can help you. Another big how-to, making money via exclusivity. And there are two kinds of that. One of them, let's call this iPod exclusivity. What's the difference between iPod and another MP3 player? This really put iPods up on the map. White headphones. If you were to actually look at white headphones, when they came out, there was more chance of you getting mugged with white headphones than with normal headphones. Now, why is that? Well, maybe it's because you can't hear because you're listening to music, but maybe it's because you had a $500 iPod and the white headphones gave that away. But on the plus side of that, it also makes you look super cool to your friends to have those white headphones. So if you've got something exclusive that you can do, it doesn't have to be a big change. We're talking little things that you can do to make more money. Changing the headphones from black or gray to white, for example, that went a long way with iPods. What's something that you can do to make what you offer exclusive? Also, limited availability. You know, Google Fiber, they're coming to Nashville. They're in the process of putting fiber down all over the city. You can't get Google Fiber everywhere. Only 3 or 4 cities in the country currently have it, and there was a huge contest, that's what I'm going to call it, where Google went to about 8 different markets, and they said, if you want Google Fiber, you've got to do these things. There's limited availability. Nashville wanted it. They wanted it to put Nashville on the map. The people of Nashville wanted it, and because of that, they're giving tax breaks. They're giving all sorts of great favor to Google. Because of that, great publicity for Google, more money for Google. What is something that you can do that will have limited availability where you're turning people away and also turning people off? If you listen to the first episode of the new Red Podcast, redpodcast.com/154, if you want to hear that, I talk about 3 reasons why you'll want to continue to listen to the new Red Podcast, and also 1 reason why you should unsubscribe right now and go somewhere else. This is not for everybody. It may not be for you. It's a great marketing technique, and I encourage you to turn people away and turn people off. I'm going to leave you with one more story from the entertainment business. You're going to love this because this is how money is really made. This is what I call more money via huge balls. When I mention the name Jay Leno, you think probably about the late night Jay Leno. But before that, Jay Leno was a stand-up comic, fairly successful for a long time, but like all of us, he had to start from the ground up. And this is how he did it. He was going to school in Boston. It's a big city, and there is some comedy there, but the big mecca of comedy, New York City. Now, a lot of people know this about Jay Leno. He loves old cars. And at the time, to work his way through college, he's working at the Rolls-Royce dealership. And his job was to go to the Rolls-Royce factory, drive the car into Boston. But he wants to be a comic. So Jay Leno, he's in Boston, needs to get to New York City because that's where the gigs are. Comedy is one of those things where it has to be done live. You can't read it. You could listen to a tape maybe, but the real rubber meets the road moment is watching it live. That's how you know if a comic is good. Just a random audience, and you can make them laugh, then you're good. So Jay Leno, Boston, has to get to New York City to do this. He drives down for an open mic night. They're going to give him 3 to 5 minutes on stage. Drives down a few hours, waits all night, doesn't get put on stage, has to drive back. Comes back the next night, drives down to New York from Boston, waits all night, has to go back home empty-handed, doesn't get the gig. Third night, same thing. Drives down from Boston, waits all night, goes back to Boston empty-handed, no gig, no interest, not even able to try his stuff for 3 to 5 minutes. So he's got this gig where he's driving Rolls Royces in to the dealership, and he has this idea. Drive down in a Rolls Royce, park it in front of the comedy club. So people wonder who this guy is. It's Rolls Royce. It's going to get attention, right? Gets out of the car, goes in, puts $50 on the bar, and he tells the booking agent, look, if anybody leaves, one person, you keep this $50. But I need to get on stage tonight. That is doing something that you do every day, moving Rolls Royces and making it exciting, making it a bigger deal than it is, and putting your money where your mouth is. And we all know what happened to Jay Leno after that. So here's my final question for you. What is it that you're really selling? It's not what you do, it's who you are. And these are the ways that I've talked about that you can do it. I encourage you to go forward with it. Put your money where your mouth is. Look into your life and start sharing your life, those moments that you don't think are exciting, but other people will. Start sharing that with other people. You've got questions, you've got comments, reach out to me. redpodcast.com is the website. You can subscribe, never miss an episode there. We've also got the Red Insiders Club. If you want to get on the phone one-on-one with me, I do these calls every month. It's free, no charge. We'll talk about how to build your business, how to become more of a personality, how to influence people, how to stand out from the noise. Go to redpodcast.com for that. If you've got a quick question you want answered, Twitter is the way to get me. @DavidHooper is my username. Follow me, ask me anything you want, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.